AITA for showing the video my mom deleted after she publicly humiliated me at their anniversary? I'm Emily, 34, and I'm the oldest daughter in my family. For as long as I can remember, being the oldest never felt like a role I chose. It felt like an unpaid position I somehow got promoted into before I was old enough to understand what was happening. I was the one who kept spare keys. I remembered due dates. I knew which cousin needed a ride, which aunt couldn't drive at night, when Grandma Vera had an appointment, and which bill my parents had forgotten until the red notice showed up. My younger sister, Sophie, is 29. Sophie was different. She could walk into a room 40 minutes late holding a grocery store pie, and somehow become the person everyone thanked for, bringing the family together. If I showed up early, moved tables, picked up ice, fixed the seating chart, paid the balance nobody remembered, and drove Grandma home afterward, that was just Emily being Emily. My parents, Sharon and Victor, used to call me the practical one. For years I thought that was praise. Eventually I realized it meant, you can handle more, so we're going to give you more. Sophie was sensitive. Sophie was free-spirited. Sophie meant well. I was intense. I was too serious. And once I started asking people to pay me back or follow through on things they had promised, I became obsessed with keeping score. That phrase came mostly from Sophie. You always make money weird. She once told me after I asked about $600 she had borrowed 3 months earlier. I remember looking at her across my parents' kitchen table, while she stirred sugar into coffee she hadn't made. I didn't make money weird, I said. You borrowed it. She rolled her eyes. See? This is what I mean. You act like everything is a contract. No. I act like words mean things. Mom was at the sink and immediately jumped in. Emily, let it go. You know how your sister is. That sentence probably did more damage in our family than any screaming match ever could. You know how your sister is. Sophie forgot to pay someone back? You know how your sister is. Sophie promised to take Grandma somewhere and canceled 20 minutes before pickup? You know how your sister is. Sophie borrowed Mom's car, clipped someone's mailbox and waited 2 days to mention it? You know how your sister is. Somehow, Sophie's personality was treated like weather. Unfortunate, inconvenient, but nobody's fault. My personality, on the other hand, was treated like a disciplinary issue. When I was younger, I tried to be patient because I thought patience eventually earned fairness. It didn't. It earned repetition. By the time we were adults, everybody had gotten very comfortable with the arrangement. There was one Christmas when Sophie arrived late after forgetting the dessert she had volunteered to bring. Mom laughed and said, "At least she made it." I had spent half the morning helping Dad fix a blown breaker, then drove Grandma Vera over because her ride canceled, then went back out because Mom forgot cranberry sauce. Nobody meant to be cruel about it. That was almost worse. They just expected it. Sophie arrived, took off her coat, hugged everybody, and immediately got praised for bringing such good energy. I sat down with a lukewarm plate after everyone else had eaten, and Dad leaned over. "You're a lifesaver," he whispered. I remember asking, "Then why does nobody say that out loud?" He gave me that tired smile he always used when he wanted a conversation to end. "You know how your mother is." That was Dad's version of the same sentence. Mom excused Sophie. Dad excused Mom. And everybody expected me to excuse the whole system. Grandma Vera was the one person who didn't really play that game. She was 83 by the time things started getting harder for her. She was still sharp, still stubborn, and absolutely hated being fussed over. When she needed more help with transportation, medication pickups, homemade visits, and regular appointments, the family created a shared care account. Nothing dramatic. We weren't talking about millions of dollars or some huge inheritance. It was just a practical account used to make sure care-related costs were paid on time. Mom handled most of the scheduling. I tracked payments because, frankly, nobody else did. Dad contributed when he remembered. Aunt Nora contributed regularly. I covered gaps more often than I should have. Sophie contributed in bursts. She would send money 1 month, forget the next 2, then show up with flowers for Grandma and get photographed holding her hand. Grandma liked the flowers, so I never said anything. I didn't want her care turned into some competition over who was the better granddaughter. I kept a handwritten calendar on the side of my refrigerator with appointment dates, initials, pickups, pharmacy runs, and aid schedules. I kept receipts because insurance claims got messy. I saved payment confirmations because people forgot what had been covered. I didn't think of it as evidence. It was organization. That distinction mattered later. The first time I realized Mom was actively changing the story about me was through Aunt Nora. Nora called one evening while I was cleaning up after dinner. We talked for a few minutes about Grandma, and then she said in this careful voice, "Your mom says you've been hard to reach lately." I stopped drying a plate. "That's interesting." She said you've pulled back from family stuff. Did she? Nora hesitated. She said you're upset about money. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, it was just so perfectly backward. "That's interesting," I repeated, "because she reached me just fine yesterday when she needed $480 for Grandma's aid." Nora went quiet. She didn't mention that. I'm shocked. I wasn't. That was the beginning. Over the next few months, little comments started finding their way back to me. A cousin asked if I was taking a break from family responsibilities. Uncle Graham made some joke at Thanksgiving about me having a spreadsheet for hugs. Mom told someone I had become transactional. Sophie told Tess, our cousin, that I had basically checked out because I was mad people didn't praise me enough. What made it especially frustrating was that I was still doing things. I was still covering emergencies, still handling Grandma's paperwork when Mom got overwhelmed, still paying the occasional family utility bill when my parents were short and Dad called me privately. Dad loved calling privately. He would lower his voice like he was in a hostage negotiation. "Your mother doesn't know I'm asking." Or, "Can we keep this between us?" Or my favorite, "I'll make sure this gets sorted next month." One night he called because their electric bill was overdue. I paid it. The next morning he left me a voicemail. "Hey Em, I just wanted to say thank you. You really saved us here. Your mother gets upset when money comes up, so maybe don't mention it, but I know what you did. I appreciate you." I saved the voicemail because I save almost everything that involves money. A few days later, Mom told Aunt Nora I had stopped helping. That was when I called Dad and asked him to correct her. He sighed. "I don't want to get in the middle." "You are in the middle." "Emily." "Dad, she is telling people I don't help while you are literally calling me for help. Your mother is emotional about these things. So that means she gets to lie? I just want peace." I remember leaning against my kitchen counter, staring at nothing. "No, Dad. You want me quiet enough to look like peace." He didn't answer. That should have been the moment I stopped helping. It wasn't. That was my biggest mistake. I thought being right would eventually protect me. But being right without boundaries just made me useful. A few months before my parents' anniversary, the care account for Grandma came up short. I noticed because a homemade invoice that should have cleared was still sitting unpaid. I called Mom. She sounded irritated before I even finished explaining. "I know." "If you know what happened?" "There was a mix-up." "What kind of mix-up?" "Emily, not everything needs an investigation. That account is for Grandma. And she's fine. The invoice is due." I said I'll handle it. She didn't. 2 days later, I transferred enough money to cover the shortfall, because I wasn't going to let Grandma's care get delayed over a family argument. Mom texted me afterward. "Thank you. I know this isn't ideal. Please don't make it a big thing." I replied, "I'm not making it a big thing. I need to know what happened." She didn't answer. A week later, Sophie sent me $150 on Venmo with a note that said, "For stuff." I texted her. "What is this for?" She wrote, "Mom said you were being weird about the care account again." That sentence bothered me. Again. She didn't answer. I asked Mom directly whether Sophie had used money from the account. Mom called immediately. That was always a sign she didn't want a written record. "Why would you ask your sister that?" "Because something is missing." "Nothing is missing." "Then where did the money go?" "You are making this ugly. It's Grandma's money. It is family money." "No, it is money for Grandma's care." Mom lowered her voice. Your sister is going through a lot. I went silent. That was enough. What did she take? Emily. How much? She was going to put it back. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not an accounting error. Not a bank delay. Sophie. Why? That is between her and me. No, it became between all of us when her decision caused Grandma's bill to go unpaid. You covered it. That line told me everything about how Mom saw me. You covered it. Problem solved. No victim. No consequence. I said, I want the amount, the date, and a plan for her to repay it. Mom snapped. You are not her parent. No, apparently I'm just the family emergency fund. She cannot handle you attacking her right now. I'm asking her to replace money she took. You always have to make people feel ashamed. I nearly laughed. Instead I said, send me the amount. She hung up. The next morning I got a text from her. Don't bring this up around the family. Your sister can't handle being humiliated. I stared at that message for a long time. At the time I thought the hypocrisy was just irritating. Later, it became the center of everything. The anniversary party was announced about 6 weeks after that. My parents had been married 40 years, and Mom wanted what she called a proper celebration. She found a rented banquet room attached to a casual event hall. It had white tablecloths, a little raised area with a microphone, a projector screen, and space for about 60 people. There would be catered food, a sheet cake, framed family photos, flower arrangements, and a slideshow. Mom was very excited about the slideshow. She was less excited about the bill. She called me one Sunday afternoon. We're dividing some of the party expenses between family. Okay. Your father and I think it would be nice if you and Sophie helped with the catering. I waited. How much? Your half would be about $1,200. My half? Yes. What is Sophie paying? A pause. That is between me and Sophie. I actually smiled. Then my payment is between me, and the answer is no. Her voice changed instantly. Excuse me. I'm still covering expenses tied to Grandma's care account because Sophie hasn't replaced what she took. This again. Yes, this again. Because the money is still gone. You cannot punish your father and me because you're angry with your sister. I'm not punishing you. I'm not funding a party while unpaid family obligations are being dumped on me. After everything we've done for you. There it was. The family anthem. I said, if you want a $1,200 contribution from me, first show me Sophie's repayment schedule. Mom went icy. Fine. Don't pay. Just don't show up acting like you're above everyone. I don't act like I'm above everyone. You always have this look. What look? That look you get when you're judging people. Mom, I am on the phone. You know what I mean. She hung up. That evening Sophie texted. Seriously? You won't help with Mom and Dad's anniversary because you're still mad at me? I replied. I'm not paying for the party while the care account issue is unresolved. She wrote. You are obsessed. I didn't respond. Then she sent. You save screenshots of everything like you're building a case. That one stuck with me. Because she was right about one thing. I did save screenshots. Just not for the reason she thought. A few days before the party, Tess texted me. Tess is 31. A cousin I've always liked because she notices more than she says. Her message was short. Can I tell you something without you getting mad at me? I replied. That depends heavily on what you're about to tell me. She sent a laughing emoji then. I helped your mom test the slideshow. It's weird. I called her. What do you mean weird? She sounded uncomfortable. There are barely any pictures of you. I didn't say anything. She continued. There are a ton of Sophie. Like a lot. Holidays, birthdays, grandma trips, everything. Okay. And the pictures of you are I don't know. What? Some are cropped. I sat up straighter. Cropped how? There's one from Sophie's graduation. I saw the original before. You were in it. In the slideshow version, it's mostly your mom and Sophie. I remembered that day. I had driven 6 hours, helped mom when she misplaced the hotel confirmation, picked up dad's prescription on the way, and got there 10 minutes before the ceremony started. But apparently my contribution to family history was taking up too much space on the left side of the picture. Tess said, "There are a couple where you're technically in them, but you look tired or you're off to the side." That sounds about right. I don't want to start anything. You didn't. I just thought you should know. Thanks. Before we hung up, she said quietly, "It looked intentional." After that call, I went to my kitchen table and pulled out a plastic file box. Not because I had decided to expose anybody. At that point, I genuinely hadn't. I just knew my mother well enough to understand that an edited family slideshow was not about photography. It was positioning. So I reviewed everything. Printed bank statements with account numbers blacked out. Zelle confirmations. Venmo payments. Utility bills. Insurance notices. Homemade invoices. Texts from mom. Texts from Sophie. Voicemails from dad. The caregiving calendar from my refrigerator. I even had a short notarized note Grandma Vera had signed months earlier when there was a dispute over who had covered a particular stretch of care expenses. It was simple. It said that I had contributed to her care costs and assisted with appointments and payments during that period. Grandma had insisted on signing it because she hated hearing relatives argue about what she called nonsense accounting. I sat at the table with a highlighter and started putting dates in order. That was when I saw it. At first, I thought I was imagining a pattern. The missing payment from Grandma's account happened in early April. 2 days later, Sophie sent Mom a message that said, "I'll put it back before Emily notices." I had that message because Sophie had accidentally included it in a screenshot she later sent me during a different argument. At the time, I had barely noticed it. 3 days after that, Mom texted me, "Don't bring this up around the family. Your sister can't handle being humiliated." For days after that, Aunt Nora first asked why I had stopped helping. The following week, Mom told another relative that I was becoming difficult about family responsibilities. A week later, she told Graham I cared more about money than people. The timing was too clean. Mom's campaign about me being selfish hadn't started randomly. It started right after Sophie took money from Grandma's care account. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes just looking at the dates. Then I replayed Dad's voicemail. "Your mother gets upset when money comes up, but I know you saved us here." I pulled up Mom's thank you text after I covered the care account shortage. "Thank you. I know this isn't ideal. Please don't make it a big thing." Then I found Sophie's Venmo payment. Then Mom's messages telling me not to embarrass Sophie. That was the moment the whole thing changed for me. Mom wasn't just defending Sophie out of habit. She was creating a replacement story. If people believed I had become cold, selfish, and obsessed with money, then any questions I raised about the care fund could be dismissed as me being difficult. If relatives believed I had stopped helping, then the shortage could be explained without anyone looking at Sophie. If Sophie was the loving daughter and I was the bitter daughter, Mom didn't have to admit she had let one child take money meant for Grandma, and then pressured the other child to cover the consequences. The anniversary party suddenly made sense in a way I wished it didn't. It wasn't only a celebration. It was a reputation reset. I opened my laptop. I created a 3-minute video. Nothing dramatic. No sad music. No insults. No sarcastic captions. The first title card said, "The part of our family story that kept getting deleted." Then dates. Amounts. Screenshots. Redacted bank statements. Care invoices. Short clips of Dad's voicemail. Mom thanking me privately. Mom telling relatives days later that I had refused to help. Sophie's message. "I'll put it back before Emily notices." Mom's message. "Don't bring this up around the family. Your sister can't handle being humiliated." Then the homemade invoice that I covered after the account came up short. The last slide said, "I am not asking anyone to take my word for it. These are the records." I watched it once. Then twice. I removed one screenshot because it included a detail that was embarrassing but irrelevant. I cut another section because I didn't want revenge to turn into cruelty. I kept Grandma's medical information out of it entirely. Only money, dates, logistics, and statements people had made about me. Then I copied the file onto a USB drive. I made myself one rule. If Mom didn't lie about me in public, nobody would see it. If the party was simply awkward, I would go home. If the slideshow ignored me, I would deal with it. If Sophie made some rude comment, I would ignore her. But if Mom turned the microphone into a weapon, I was done being unarmed. The night before the anniversary, Mom texted me. Please try to smile tomorrow. I don't want people asking what's wrong. I read it twice. Then Sophie sent. Please don't do your whole martyr thing tomorrow. This is about Mom and Dad. I didn't answer either of them. I put the USB in my purse. The banquet room looked exactly like something my mother would love. White tablecloths. Costco-style flowers arranged in glass vases. A welcome table with framed pictures from my parents' marriage. Cheap champagne in plastic flutes. A sheet cake with gold lettering. Cousins taking pictures near the dessert table. The projector screen already had the first slide up. 40 years of love and family. I arrived on time. Mom kissed my cheek and immediately looked me over like she was checking a rental car for damage. You look nice. Thanks. You're not upset, are you? I just walked in. I'm asking. I'm fine. She smiled tightly. Good. Sophie came over wearing a dress Mom had probably approved. She hugged me. A real hug would have been less strange. She leaned back and said, "See? We can all be normal." I looked at her. I didn't know normal had a dress code. Her smile thinned. Don't start. I said 7 words. She walked away. I found my seat. Mom had placed me in the back half of the room, close to a table of cousins and far from the family table. It wasn't subtle. I knew exactly where she wanted me. Close enough to be judged. Far enough to be erased. Dad came over before dinner. He squeezed my shoulder. I'm glad you came. Were you worried I wouldn't? He looked toward Mom. She's been stressed. Dad. I know. No, I don't think you do. He gave me the same tired expression. Can we just get through tonight? That sentence almost made me leave. Instead I said, that depends on what happens tonight. He frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm here to celebrate your anniversary. That's all. He looked nervous, but somebody called him away. Dinner was mostly normal. That was the weird part. People talked. Kids ran between tables. Graham complained about parking. Nora asked Grandma Vera whether she was warm enough, and Grandma told her, I'm 83, not a houseplant. Everybody laughed. For an hour it could have been any family party. Then the slideshow started. At first it was pictures of Mom and Dad when they were young. Wedding photos. A bad 1980s haircut on Dad that got the expected laugh. Hospital pictures after I was born. Then Sophie's baby pictures. Vacations. Birthdays. School events. Christmases. The pattern was easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. But I was. There was Sophie at 16 holding a birthday cake. Sophie at 22 with Mom and Dad at Thanksgiving. Sophie kneeling beside Grandma Vera with flowers. Sophie helping Mom decorate a tree. Sophie laughing beside Dad at a cookout. Me? There was one picture where I was standing at the edge of a family group with my mouth half open. One where I looked exhausted after a holiday meal. One where I was alone in the background while Sophie was centered in front. Then the graduation photo appeared. The crop was exactly as Tess had described. Mom and Sophie in the middle. Me gone. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I had driven 6 hours to be in that picture. I had been standing beside them. Not anymore. Tess, sitting 2 tables away, glanced at me. She gave me the smallest nod. I nodded back. I wasn't going to do anything. Not yet. It hurt, but I had promised myself. An edited slideshow wasn't enough. Then the final section came. A title card read, The Ones Who Always Show Up. There was Sophie. Sophie bringing flowers. Sophie hugging Grandma. Sophie with Mom. Sophie with Dad. Sophie beside the anniversary cake earlier that afternoon. I almost admired the efficiency. Mom had built a documentary around a lie. When the slideshow ended, everyone clapped. Mom stood and took the microphone. I reached into my purse and touched the USB. Still I waited. She started sweetly. She thanked everyone for coming. She talked about 40 years of marriage, family, sacrifice, and how hard it was to keep people together. Dad stood beside her smiling awkwardly. Then Mom said, "A family only works when people stop keeping score." My spine went straight. A few people laughed softly. She continued, "You raise your children hoping they understand that love isn't a transaction. You hope they remember that real family shows up without needing praise." Nora looked down at her plate. Tess stopped smiling. Dad stared at the floor. Mom glanced directly at me. "And sometimes," she said, "you have one child who understands that naturally." She looked at Sophie. Sophie put a hand to her chest and made this little embarrassed smile. Mom continued, "And sometimes you have one who keeps receipts instead of having a heart." There were a few uncomfortable laughs. Then Graham, who hadn't caught the tone yet, chuckled and clapped once. Another relative followed. Sophie laughed. That was the sound that decided it. Mom raised her glass. A real daughter doesn't make her family ashamed. The room was quiet for half a second. Then a few people clapped because people will clap at almost anything when they're holding champagne and don't know what else to do. Sophie said, "Loud enough for the people around us to hear." Mom's right. Some people only show up when they want credit. I stood. I didn't slam my chair. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything to Sophie. I picked up my purse and walked toward the projector. Mom laughed nervously into the microphone. "Oh, Emily, please. Not tonight." I looked at the cousin running the laptop. "Can you plug this in?" He stared at me. I held out the USB. Mom said, "No." I turned toward her. "Since we're telling family stories tonight, I'm going to add 3 minutes. Emily, sit down." I handed over the USB. Then watch the part Mom deleted. The cousin running the laptop looked at Dad. Dad didn't stop him. That mattered. The screen went black. Then the title appeared. The part of our family story that kept getting deleted. Nobody laughed. The first slide showed a date and a utility bill. Mom had told Aunt Nora I had refused to help that month. The next line showed my transfer covering it the following day. Then a screenshot of Mom texting, "Thank you. Please don't tell your father how close that was." Someone at a nearby table murmured, "Wow." The next slide showed 3 care-related invoices for Grandma Vera. My initials were on the handwritten calendar next to the appointment dates. Then payment confirmations. Then a short excerpt from Grandma's notarized note confirming I had helped cover care expenses and transportation. I looked at Grandma. She was watching the screen with her mouth pressed into a straight line. Mom stepped toward the laptop. "This is inappropriate," I said. So was the toast. The cousin running the laptop kept the video going. Then Dad's voice came through the speakers. The room changed. "Hey Em, I just wanted to say thank you. You really saved us here. Your mother gets upset when money comes up, so maybe don't mention it, but I know what you did. I appreciate you." Dad closed his eyes. Graham stopped smiling. Nora turned and looked directly at him. The next slide showed April 12th. Sharon tells family Emily refused to help. April 13th. Emily pays the overdue bill. Then Mom's text thanking me. Then a screenshot of another payment. Then a message from Sophie promising to repay money she owed me. Sophie pushed her chair back slightly. "What is this?" I didn't answer. The next slide came up. A screenshot. Sophie to Mom. "I'll put it back before Emily notices." You could feel people trying to understand what they were looking at. Nora leaned forward. Tess whispered something to the cousin beside her. Sophie stood. "That is completely out of context," I said. "Then explain the context." She looked at Mom. Mom grabbed the microphone. "Turn this off." The next slide appeared before anyone moved. It showed the care account shortage. The unpaid homemade invoice. My transfer covering it. And Mom's text to me. Don't bring this up around the family. Your sister can't handle being humiliated. Silence. Not polite silence. The kind of silence where everybody suddenly realizes the room has been rearranged around them. Somebody at the back set down a fork. I looked at Mom. That was the moment everyone understood what I had understood the night at my kitchen table. My mother knew exactly what humiliation was. She knew it could hurt. She knew it could follow someone through a family. She knew it could become a label. She just thought Sophie deserved protection from it. I didn't. Mom walked toward me with the microphone. Her face had gone red. You are humiliating your own mother. I said. You handed everyone a lie and called it a toast. I brought receipts and called it the rest of the story. This is our anniversary. You made me part of your speech. I was talking about family values. You were talking about me. You always think everything is about you. Sophie said. Why would you show people that? I turned toward her. Because you just laughed while Mom called me a shame. I said I was going to put it back. You didn't. I was going through something. So was Grandma's bank account. Emily, Dad warned quietly. I looked at him. No, not now. The video reached the final slide. I am not asking anyone to take my word for it. These are the records. Then the screen went black. Nobody clapped. Mom stood there gripping the microphone. Nora was the first person who said anything. Sharon. Mom looked at her. Nora pointed toward the screen. Is any of that fake? Mom's expression changed immediately. This is not the place. Nora didn't move. That's not what I asked. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I cannot believe this is happening. Nora said, don't cry at me. Answer the question. Is any of it fake? This family does not need to discuss private finances at a celebration. I said, you picked the place. She snapped. I did not know you were coming here to attack me. I came with a USB in case you attacked me. There's a difference. That is insane. No, it's prepared. Sophie pushed her chair back harder. You have always wanted to make me look bad. I looked at her. I spent years making you look better. She stared at me. Then Dad finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but because the room had gone silent, everyone heard him. Emily did help. Mom whipped around. Victor. He swallowed. She helped more than any of you know. I felt no relief. That surprised me. For years I had wanted him to say exactly that. Now that he finally did, it felt late. I said, you knew that before she called me a shame. Dad looked at me. I know. No, you knew then too. He looked down. Sophie grabbed her purse. This is disgusting. Tess spoke from her table. I saw the original graduation picture. Everybody looked at her. She said, Emily was in it. She was standing right next to them. Mom said sharply, Tess, stay out of this. Tess shook her head. You made me help test the slideshow. Mom's face tightened. Sophie started walking toward the door. Mom called after her. Sophie. She kept going. For once, nobody immediately followed her. That might have been the strangest part of the night. Sophie had spent years leaving rooms in tears, and somehow turning her exit into somebody else's apology. This time her chair scraped across the floor. She walked out, and the room stayed focused on the people still inside. Mom sat down. She looked smaller without the microphone. I took a printed one-page timeline from my purse. Then another. I had brought 6 copies. I set one on Nora's table. One near Graham. One beside Dad. Mom stared at me. What are you doing? Making sure nobody has to rely on my memory. Graham picked up the page. He had been one of the people who clapped after Mom's comment. He looked uncomfortable now. This says Sophie took money from Vera's care account. Yes. How much? I gave him the number. He whistled quietly. Mom said, she borrowed it. From an account that was not hers. She was replacing it. Then why did I have to cover the invoice? Mom had no answer. I looked around the room. I'm not asking anyone here to hate anybody. I'm not asking you to choose sides. But I am done being called selfish for bills I paid. I'm done being called absent for appointments I handled. I'm done being told I'm keeping score by people who only remember the score when they need me to lose. Nobody interrupted. So this is what changes after tonight. I am canceling every automatic payment I have been quietly making for family expenses that are not mine. I am not covering Sophie's debts. I am not filling care account gaps caused by somebody taking money and refusing to replace it. I will still help Grandma directly when I choose to. But I will not route that help through people who lie about it. Mom whispered, "You are punishing everyone." "No, I'm letting everyone pay for the choices they made." She shook her head. "You've become so hard." "I had to. Soft boundaries don't survive in this family." Dad flinched. I continued. "And one more thing. If anybody tells relatives a story about me that involves money, care, or what I supposedly refused to do, I will send the records to the people you involved." Mom said, "So you're threatening me?" "No. I'm giving you the terms under which I will no longer be lied about." Grandma Vera raised one hand from her seat. Everyone stopped. She looked at Mom first. Then Sophie's empty chair. Then me. She said, "I would like my money put back." That was it. No dramatic speech. No tears. Just 8 words. Mom looked like she had been slapped. Grandma continued. "And Emily should stop paying for everyone." Nora nodded. "So should we all until this is fixed." Graham looked at Mom. "I helped with tonight because I thought this was a family celebration." "It is," Mom said. He shook his head. "No, you turned it into something else." A few people started talking at once after that. Not yelling. Questions. Real questions. When had Sophie taken the money? How long had Mom known? Why had Mom told people I stopped helping? Why was I cropped out of pictures? Was Dad aware? Why had nobody said anything? Mom kept repeating versions of the same answer. I was trying to protect everyone. Then. Families handle things privately. Then. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Then. Emily has always been difficult about money. That last one landed differently now. Nora looked at her and said, "If Emily paid those bills, why did you tell us she refused?" Mom didn't answer. Nora said, "This family has been calling the wrong person difficult." I almost cried when she said that. Not because it fixed anything. It didn't. But because somebody finally saw what had been happening without asking me to make it more comfortable for them. I left about 20 minutes later. I didn't wait for cake. I didn't help clean up. I didn't collect the framed photos. I didn't drive anyone home. That felt almost criminal. On the way out, Dad followed me into the hallway. "Emily." I stopped. He looked exhausted. I should have said something sooner. "Yes." He blinked, maybe expecting me to soften it. I didn't. I thought staying quiet would keep things from getting worse. "You didn't want peace, Dad. You wanted silence." "I know." "No, I need you to really understand that. Silence wasn't neutral. Every time Mom told people I didn't care and you said nothing, you picked the version that cost you less." He looked down. "That's fair. I'm not asking you to fight with her. I'm asking you to stop making me pay for the fact that you don't want to." He nodded. "I'm sorry." It was probably the most honest conversation we had ever had. I didn't hug him. I didn't tell him everything was fine. I just said, "I'll talk to you later." Then I left. By the time I got home, I had 11 missed calls. 4 from Mom. 3 from Sophie. 2 from Dad. 1 from Nora. 1 from Graham. There were texts too. "Mom. Call me immediately." Then. "You have no idea what you've done." Then. "People are upset." Then. "Your grandmother is confused." That last one made me angry enough to respond. Grandma is not confused. Do not use her to rewrite what happened tonight. Mom didn't answer. Sophie sent. You made everyone hate me. Then. I said I would fix it. Then. You always act like you're perfect because you save screenshots. I wrote back. No. I stopped making your choices look like my personality. She called. I didn't answer. Then she sent. You could have handled this privately. I actually laughed when I read that. Because I had. For years. Quietly. Privately. One bill at a time. One warning at a time. One conversation at a time. One favor at a time. Private was where their behavior survived best. The next morning, I opened my bank account and canceled the automatic payments I had been making toward 2 family expenses. Then I removed myself from an account where my card had been used as a backup payment method. Then I emailed Mom and Dad a simple list. No insults. No paragraphs. These payments will end on these dates. These expenses are not mine. Grandma's care payments I personally choose to cover will be paid directly to the vendor. Sophie's debt is not my responsibility. Dad replied. Understood. Mom replied. Unbelievable. I didn't respond. For the next week, Mom did exactly what I expected. She called relatives. She told some of them I had been planning to ambush her. She said I had manipulated screenshots. She said the care account issue was a misunderstanding. She said I had always resented Sophie. The difference was that now I didn't chase the story. If someone contacted me because Mom had involved them, I sent the one-page timeline. My message was always the same. If you were asked to judge me, you deserve the evidence too. That was it. No commentary. No name-calling. No social media. No public posts. Just the same dates they had already seen. The strategy worked better than any argument could have. Some people apologized. Not all. A cousin wrote, I really thought you had stopped helping. I'm sorry. Another said, I still think the anniversary wasn't the best place, but after what she said in the toast, I understand why you did it. Graham called me. He sounded embarrassed. I owe you an apology. You laughed. I did. I heard you. I know. There was a pause. I believed your mother. I know. She was very convincing. I know. I'm not helping her plan the family reunion next year, unless she apologizes to you in front of everyone she told. That surprised me. You don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I don't want to be part of that again. Fair enough. Nora was more direct. She called Mom and demanded a full explanation. I know because Mom texted me afterward. You have turned my own sister against me. I replied. I did not call Nora. She wrote. You knew what would happen. I wrote. I knew questions would happen. Then she stopped responding. Tess called one afternoon. I'm sorry I didn't say something earlier. You warned me. I mean before. I heard little things. So did everyone. I thought maybe it was none of my business. It probably wasn't, until people started making me everyone's business. She sighed. I feel bad. Don't. Just don't help anyone crop me out next time. She laughed despite herself. Deal. Sophie avoided me for almost 2 weeks. Then she called from a number I didn't recognize because I had stopped answering hers. Picked up. Hello. It's me. I almost hung up. She said quickly, Can you just listen? Depends. I talked to Grandma. Okay. She wants the money back. Yes. Mom says everybody is overreacting. That sounds like Mom. I'm going to repay it. Good. But I can't do it all at once. I didn't ask you to. There was a pause. What do you want? A written repayment plan. She made it sound like I had personally offended her. Seriously? Yes. You want me to sign a contract? A one-page agreement. Amount owed. Monthly payment. Date. Signatures. You're unbelievable. You took money from Grandma's care fund. I borrowed it. Without asking me. I asked Mom. The account wasn't Mom's personal account. I was desperate. Then you should have said that. I knew you'd judge me. You knew I'd ask you to pay it back. That too. There it was. I sat quietly. Sophie said, "Everyone is looking at me like I stole from Grandma. You did take money from an account for Grandma without telling everyone responsible for it. You always make everything sound worse." "No, I make it sound specific." She started crying. Old me would have reacted. Old me would have softened my voice. Old me would have said, okay, calm down, and somehow ended the call agreeing to help solve the problem she created. I stayed quiet. After a few seconds she stopped. Then she said, "Fine. Send me the stupid agreement." I did. It was basic. No lawyer language. No threats. No penalties beyond what we agreed. Just the amount, a monthly repayment number she could actually afford, and where the money would go. She signed it 2 days later. The first payment arrived on time. The second one did too. I didn't congratulate her. Repaying money you took is not a personality transformation. Dad called me about a month after the party. He sounded nervous. "Your mother and I have been talking. That sounds dangerous." He actually laughed a little. Then he got serious. "She knows she owes you an apology." "Does she?" "She does." "Then she can apologize. She's having trouble with the public part." "Of course she is. She feels like you already embarrassed her." "She embarrassed me in front of the same people." "I know." "Then what are we talking about?" He sighed. "I guess I wanted to see if there was a middle ground." There was. It existed before the party. She could have stopped lying. He was quiet. "That's fair." That became Dad's new sentence. "That's fair." It wasn't much, but it was better than "you know how your mother is." About 2 weeks later, Mom finally sent me a long text. Started well. "I'm sorry for the things I said at the anniversary. I was hurt and defensive, and I should not have made comments about you in front of everyone. Then it went downhill. But you didn't have to do what you did publicly. You could have come to me. There were private family matters in that presentation, and I will never forget the humiliation of standing there while people judged me." I read the whole message twice. Then I replied, "You made it public. I made it honest." She sent 3 paragraphs after that. I didn't answer. A few days later, Mom invited me to family dinner. Not apologized. Invited. "Dinner Sunday. Grandma will be here. I think it would be good for everyone to move forward." I replied, "I won't be there." She wrote, "Emily, this has gone on long enough." I answered, "I'll come to family events again after you directly correct the lies you told about me in front of the people you told them to." She responded, "I already apologized to you. Privately." I wrote, "The lie was public." No reply. Sunday came. I didn't go. At 6:30 Dad called. I watched the phone ring. For the first time in years, I didn't assume there was an emergency waiting for me. At 7 o'clock I made dinner. At 8 o'clock I realized I hadn't checked whether my parents' utilities were paid. At 9 o'clock I realized I didn't care. Not because I wanted anything bad to happen to them. Because they were adults. That sounds obvious. It had not felt obvious inside my family. A few relatives still think I went too far. One aunt told me, "You were right, but there had to be a kinder way." Maybe. I asked her what she thought the kinder way was. She said, "Talking privately." I told her I had done that. For how long? Years. She didn't have much to say after that. Someone else told me, "You can't embarrass your mother in front of family." I said, "Apparently she can embarrass me in front of family." He changed the subject. That's the part one understand differently now. People talk about public conflict like the person who finally responds publicly is the one who made it public. But the anniversary wasn't private. The toast wasn't private. The laughter wasn't private. The edited slideshow wasn't private. The accusation wasn't private. My response simply used the same room. I don't feel triumphant about destroying my mother. I didn't destroy her. She's still my mother. She still calls Grandma. She still sends birthday cards. She still complains to Nora that I'm stubborn. Sophie is still Sophie. Dad is still learning that silence is a decision. Nothing transformed overnight. What changed is simpler. I'm no longer financing the version of the family where I am only valuable when I am solving something quietly. I don't cover debts that aren't mine. I don't pay first and ask questions later. I don't accept "you know how your sister is" as an explanation. If someone wants me to help, they ask me directly. If someone owes money, we agree on repayment. If someone lies about me to relatives, I correct it. And if Mom wants me back at the next family dinner, she knows exactly what has to happen first. She has to look at the people who heard her call me selfish and tell them she knew I had been helping. Not because I need a ceremony. Because I spent too many years being asked to accept private gratitude while absorbing public blame. That deal is over. Dad apologized again recently. This time he didn't ask me to keep anything quiet. He said, "I should have spoken up years ago." I told him, "Yes, you should have." Then we talked about something else. That might be the closest thing to progress we have right now. Sophie has made 4 payments. Grandma Vera checks the account herself now. Nora checks it too. Nobody says the word misunderstanding anymore. Mom has not made the public apology yet. So I have not gone back to family dinner. The door is not locked. But nobody gets to walk through it carrying another lie and expect me to hold it open. I used to think being a good daughter meant absorbing discomfort so everyone else could stay comfortable. Now I think being an adult means refusing to confuse silence with love. I didn't ruin my family's anniversary. I ruined the version of the family where I had to disappear so everyone else could look innocent. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.